Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenMara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight, whenever you happen to be seeing this, I would like to do a Oracle card unboxing. This one is the Whispers of Love Oracle card deck. I just got this one a little while ago. I wasn't going to get any more in 2025, but this one kept calling out, so we went there. And it is authored by Angela Hartfield, and the artwork is by Josephine Wall, which I have a couple of her other decks as well, the Gratitude Oracle and the Mystic Wisdom Oracle. I love the art style that Josephine offers, which is why I picked this deck up, is because I wanted more of her art. And it's, to me, this type of art like this is functional art, because it's not just, a picture you hang on your wall. You're getting to actually use the art, which is actually a lot of fun. So when we open the box, inside box, we have our usual little booklet, which are handy if you're new to reading oracle cards or reading cards in general. Once you get your intuition, like I work with, it changes how you receive the information. So we also have, these are a good sized deck of cards. I mean, that's, not small by any stretch. So I want to say they're like 3.5 by 5 is what it looks like. And when we start looking through these, their cards are, again, we've got Josephine Wall's signature watercolor emotional paintings in here. And that one says, "Have patience, love is patient, and love is kind, always." So it's an interesting little art style that she has. Turn on your heart light, reflect on a time when you experienced love. So this deck is advertised as the oracle cards for attracting more love into your life. So this one might start making an appearance in some of my relationship readings once I get a little more comfortable with working with it. So, but it's listen to your heart. You are listening, but you need to hear with a loving heart. So these are all little quips and little sayings that are encouraging us to tap into our heart chakra. And I feel like in the the world being chaos as it is right now, I feel like it is actually a good idea to work a little bit more with this energy, because personally, when we examine things from the heart center, and not just from an analytical mental state, very air energy, we get that water going as well. We start to bring in the earth, grounding that down, and then we connect air and water, mind and heart. That's when we start really connecting this reality shift. Because if we stay just in one, we're always thinking about it, it's always concerning, there's always something new to trigger a fear response and all that other gigantic chaos. But if we flip it to the other side and we only look at from emotions, then we really kind of start to lose control of how we feel about things. Bringing those into alignment, we'll do better. And I feel like with this one, it's a good, just from the couple of cards we looked at just there, I feel like it's a good idea to, or a good way to maybe reconnect that a little bit, help us understand our own emotions a little bit more. So in our little booklet, they give the general introductions, how to talk to your cards, how to introduce yourself. Then we go through with our spreads. There's a 3 and a 4 card. The 4 is a relationship style spread, which is kind of cool. And then we get into the actual definitions. They only have 2 spreads. That's weird. And with each definition, they have the title card, Listen with Your Heart. So we'll look at this one. It's the first one. And then it gives you this down here. You are listening, but you need to hear with a loving heart. So when we hear that phrase, what's the first thing that comes to mind? To me, it's saying that we're hearing words, but we're not understanding the concept. When you listen to with a loving heart, you're hearing the other person's soul, not just the words that are coming out of their mouths. Sometimes those are the least important things when you're talking to somebody. And that's where I feel like this card would be leaned into. And then we go through our interpretation here. The opportunity is here for you to bring a loving perspective to a situation. It's easy to get wrapped up in the words being said, not listening from your heart, listening from your head. And so what does your heart say about the situation? Your heart knows the truth. Trust that, sit still, take a deep breath, ask your heart what you need to know. That's the first paragraph, and that pretty much sets up how you would See this card in a reading. How is it interacting with the cards around it? And how does it apply to you as a person, or if you're reading for somebody else, how does it apply to them? It's not something that you have to be really poke, 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 but it's more of think about these things. How would you journal this out? How would you respond to these questions? And then it continues on with love's first task is to listen. Do you have a habit of drifting away while someone is speaking? We all have that at some points, especially if the conversation is like, do I have to hear this again? We all do it, and anyone who says they don't, they're not being fully honest. And so your brain starts to wander off about, did I let the chickens out? Did I feed the dog? Did I get my oil changed last week? Do I have laundry to do? The other person's still talking, but you're off on a different journey. And then do you get entangled in these other thoughts where you're just wandering off into this other realm? Take time to process what is being communicated before you respond or react. Learning to listen with an open heart helps you receive guidance or affirm something you already know. That allows us, when we start to really focus on what we're saying, this is just the first card we're going over, this allows you to actually be able to communicate with the other person, from an open heart, from an open soul. So if you are a spiritual practitioner and this card pops up in your reading, it could be, are you listening to what their soul is saying? Not just the words out of their mouth, because those things are, word talk is cheap, we'll go with that. And when you listen from the heart, though, you might be hearing in the words, oh, I'm fine, I've got all these things going on, I'm this, I'm that, busy, 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 busy. But when you listen from the heart, this person is hurting, they're alone, they're lonely, they're filling space because they don't know what else to do. The words meant nothing. So that's where I think this card is leading us into, is really focusing on what's being said without words. And then to wrap it up, it says on the card itself, there's two women. One holds a seashell to the other's ear. The seashell represents the good things that can be discovered in a challenging situation. There's a pod of dolphins playing in the background, denoting joy that may be found. There's a white horse that may be called to control your emotions, so stop and listen. What do you hear, and how can you bring more happiness in your life and those around you? So it sounds pretty simplistic, but what I have found in my personal life, as well as talking to other people, sometimes it's the simplest answer, and I do mean the simplest answer, is the one that's going to trigger the most powerful response. We can be all complicated and use big words and a lot of esoteric, all that jibber jabber, but sometimes it's the simple things that are the most important. Be in the present and dream of the future. And this is one of those cards where there's a lot going on here. But what's the basic part? Be in the present. You live now. You plan, you dream for the future. And sometimes we need that little reminder. We've got express love through gifts. A small token of love can convey great appreciation. And sometimes we just need the reminder that it doesn't have to be a lot. A gift from the heart is way more important than some of the most powerful, practical, expensive things you can give another person. So we'll get started here with a quick 3-card pull. We're just going to shuffle these cards up and see what they bring forward. And it's always it's always a little bit of a struggle when you're first cutting a brand new deck where it's not been thoroughly shuffled yet, because you never know if you're going to get 2 cards that are the same, or if it's going to be, or like in a row, or if there's going to be some variations going on. So let's build some chaos here with this deck. But the reality of why I got this is, like I said, is because it's such it's Josephine Wall, so I have to have that. But part 2 is, it is such a beautiful message that's conveyed with this whispers of love. It's not screams. It's not dictates. It's not, you'd better do this. Or like with the mystic wisdom, these are important lessons that should be paid attention to. This one is more of, how can we help you from the spirit world? How can your angels, how can your guides, your guardian angel, your guardians, ancestors, loved ones, God source, how can they help you in this search for your own love, which is the love of your soul, yourself, which is, sacrilege to some people, but it's not this is not coming from a place of words. Sorry. It's not coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of quietness. Because If you don't truly appreciate who you are as a person, why would you do nice things for yourself, let alone doing them for somebody else? Like, if you're not doing them for yourself because you like yourself, what's the point? So we've got our 3 cards pulled, and generally this is just kind of an overview reading. It's a very general one just to see how the cards respond and talk. We have number 11, look to your inner strength. You are stronger than you realize. And when you look to the inner strength here, you see that the person in here is dancing, even though it looks like they're in a tornado. And this is what this is being called to do, is observe. Even in the midst of chaos, your inner self is surprisingly happy, joyful, expansion. It doesn't have to be outside of you where you find your strength. God's source is outside, but also within you. So when you look to that inner self, that inner world, you realize, A, by surviving everything that you've survived to get to this point, you really have tapped into an inner strength. And every time you've overcome a challenge, an obstacle, you've learned a lesson, you've had to deal with a situation, you've gotten stronger. And it does not matter who you are. I don't care if you're 20 or 80. Every time you have come up against something and you've come out on the other side, you might be battered and bruised, but you're stronger because of it. You have more wisdom because of it. And that's a good card to remind you of that. Look to your inner strength. You've already experienced everything. You've survived to this point. Why wouldn't you survive this next branch? Your next card, simple acts of kindness. Kindness energizes and brings happiness to those around you. I love this card because look at all the animals. She's got a little gerbil or hamster sitting on her shoulder. There's birds. There's European badgers. They're not the American ones that'll try to eat you. There's a deer. There's fox. Is that turtle? No, butterflies. Butterflies, a hedgehog over here, some bunnies, little mouse down here on the bottom. There's all sorts of cool animals going on here. And what is a simple act of kindness? And I want you to think about this. I'll say some here in a second, but before you get to that, what is a simple act of kindness? When you look at this card, what do you think? A simple act of kindness is holding the door open for somebody. A smile instead of a scowl. I know a lot of us have RBF because that's just how we exist. But those little smiles, you see people light up. Saying hi to your neighbor, waving at your friends, even if strangers, waving at strangers who they look your way when you're driving, just give them a little hey. Some people are really confused by that. Others will automatically wave back like, oh, okay, because it lights them up. It didn't cost you anything to do that. It was a simple thing. If you happen to work at somewhere where you're allowed to bring, goodies or something from home, bake something or go pick something up if baking's not your skills and bring it. Don't say anything. Just bring it. Let it have people have at it. Little acts like that can mean a lot to people. And a lot of the times, doing those simple acts, it doesn't require a lot of money. Most of the time it's free. Don't look for gratitude from that. You're doing it because you choose to. And when you do those little acts of kindness, opening the door, smiling, saying hi to people, you are triggering a positive response in them. You're going to run against the grumpy Gusses that don't want to be that way. That's fine. Let them have their day. But you don't have to respond to their negativity. You can be the one who brings the light into their area. So it's a pretty powerful little message. Like I said, this deck had simple stuff when I was looking it up, and it was the way she portrayed these images that I just couldn't help it. I had to get this one. This last card is ask for help. What do you really need? Being willing, to accept support. I like the Poseidon style going on here. Or Ariel and her dad, whatever his name was. This is where we get into this energy of when we are truly understanding ourselves, when we understand our strengths and our weaknesses, asking for help doesn't become a problem. It's more of a, hey, I don't understand this. How would I do this? Or how can I get through this? Or what do I need to overcome this situation? So when we look at this in the light of the 3 cards we have, the start one is to look to your inner strength. Looking inside, you've already done this. You've already succeeded. You're going forward quite well. You don't need to worry about it. And then it's remembering to do those little acts of kindness. Spread the light that you carry within to others around you. And then it comes down to If there's something that you don't know, if there's something you don't understand, if there's something you need help with, asking is not a problem. This is how we succeed. This is how we grow, is through these cycles. And so when you look at the three cards together, it's actually kind of interesting because it does tell a little. Let's see if I can do this and not make a mess. I have a bad habit of throwing cards when I try to hold all three up. You have a nice little story going on here. That you're starting by understanding yourself. You're sharing that. And then if you don't understand something, you're asking for help. So I like how this deck really explains and shows these images. And I feel like it's an easier one to maybe, if you're new to Oracle cards, to get into, because when you start to really examine Josephine Wall's work, you realize that it's not just one image. There's many, many images. Her crown of crystal and chaos, her hair flowing around her, the colors that are swirling. You've got blues, so a little bit of sadness. You've got the hair being more fiery. The crown of obviously is overthinking, but her inner self is dancing, is joyful. No matter what else is going on, they're in a position of positivity and really power, honestly. And like at the last one, asking for help. You've got the mermaid down here. You've got the sea god above. But you start to really stare. It's wisdom, but it's the green. So you're thinking the king of earth. You've got this energy of stability, of strength. The youth in the watery mermaid, the Undine, is coming to the earth energy here, saying, I'm having a moment. I'm emotional or whatever. Things are overwhelming me. But because the king has already been there and done that, it's very stable. It's very comforting type energy. And that's just from looking at the cards. And like the acts of kindness is kind of self-explanatory. Being gentle. The gentle of spirit will have animals just kind of swarm. They just love to be around these people. And you have this energy of the light coming through, enhancing this person's gentility, also saying there's a blessing from the divine coming in. So when you look at these cards, and pretty much anything Josephine Wall's done, painted, you see the story, but you see so much more in a layered form. So honestly, for an unboxing, I really do appreciate and like these cards a lot. They're going to start showing up in the rotation because I really do, just from this little bit, love these the artwork. So let me know in the comments down below if you've already owned this deck or if this is a deck that you never heard of before. Now you might be adding it to yours. I've linked it in the description so you can check it out and not have to go hunting for it if you are interested. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Like, comment, subscribe, all those fun YouTube-y things. But yeah, if you've ever had this deck before, or I've ever had a reading from this deck, let me know in the comments if you're comfortable with that, and I will see you in the next video.